I am back in Derry city where I grew up, but left nearly 40 years ago. How has its recent turbulent history affected the landscape and its people? Green in Islay, the fort on the hill overlooking the city, was a magical visit as a child. I thought it was the home of the O'Donnells, my mother's antecedents, but it was actually their feudal rivals, the O'Neills, who lived here from the 4th to the 12th centuries, with its splendidly strategic panorama over the Foyle and Lough Swilly. The name Derry is derived from the old Gaelic word Derry, oakwood, and is the name most Irish people use for my city. It is the finest, most complete walled city in Ireland and widely regarded as one of the best in Europe. The walls stretch for approximately 1.5 kilometres and vary in width from 4 to 12 metres. When the city was besieged by the army of James II in 1689, the gates had been secured against the Jacobite forces by the apprentice boys of the city. I caught up with these German tourists on the walls and also encountered groups elsewhere in the city, from the States, Japan, and other parts of Europe. They will have learned about George Walker, Governor George Walker, during the siege, and the unfortunate demise of his pillar at the hands of the IRA. Bombed by the IRA in the 70s, the Guildhall is still the seat of local government and continues as a venue for cultural events and the performing arts. It has been painstakingly restored. Derry was once a busy merchant navy and NATO port. With my grandfather, I used to watch the Scotch boat leave from here for Glasgow, with its cargo of cattle and those seeking work across the water. People were once Ireland's principal export, and even today the city is losing too many of its graduates and skilled workers. Craigavon Bridge was built in 1933, and just over 50 years later, the Foyle Bridge, linking the city to its natural hinterland in Donegal, was added. This is where I went to school, St. Colum's College, famed throughout the world as the only secondary school to number 2 Nobel Prize winners among its past pupils, as well as many other high-achieving individuals. Seamus Heaney won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1995. John Hume was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1998. Martin O'Neill was an international footballer and is now recognised throughout Europe as a gifted manager. Paul Brady has had success as a performer and musician, providing songs for Tina Turner, Bob Dylan and Bonnie Raitt. Eamon McCann, writer and broadcaster, is internationally recognised as the authentic chronicler of the Troubles. The work of dramatist Brian Friel is renowned in theatrical circles throughout the world, and the Edinburgh Festival has just celebrated his 80th birthday. The past pupils of St Columb's were among the first not just to question the gross inequity of the society around them, but to demand action. The two cathedrals, St Columb's Church of Ireland, built in 1633 inside the walled city, and the much more modern Catholic one, St Eugene's, which dates from 1873, I see little physical change, though I'm told that the influence of the bishops and the clergy on lay thinking has greatly diminished. This is the headquarters of the Apprentice Boys of Derry, which commemorates the shutting of the gates during the siege and has 10,000 members in associations around the world. These Harlem High School students are learning about the siege and the effigy of Lundy, the traitor who urged surrender, which will annually be marched through the streets and burned on the walls on December the 18th. A major note of hope for the people of the city was struck in 1960 with the opening of Derry Credit Union, a financial cooperative owned and managed by local people. Nearly 50 years on, I find that it has granted £250 million in affordable loans and has assets of £100 million. That's wealth retained in the community. It has also given a boost to local commerce and encouraged investment. More importantly, it has demonstrated to Derry people what could be achieved from their own resources with effective leadership. Religion and politics have long been inextricably linked in Northern Ireland. The Bogside area is populated almost exclusively by Catholics, who as citizens were blatantly denied a wide spectrum of civil rights by the Unionist government. The guns always seemed to be pointing at them. For nearly a year after the British Army became involved in the unrest in Northern Ireland, the Bogside area, for all practical purposes, functioned as a free state within the United Kingdom. It was governed by a Citizens' Defence Committee. I spoke to 77-year-old Skin McCarthy, who with his wife Bridie raised 8 children here during the worst of the Troubles. Oh, it was not easy, he said. Normality was CS gas and rubber bullets and the Brits spying on your every movement. 14 people, including 2 past pupils and 2 friends, were shot dead by the paratroopers on the 30th of January 1972. What made Bloody Sunday different from all other atrocities in the eyes of Derry people was that they saw it as state-sanctioned murder, a decision taken at the highest levels in Westminster for the army to fire on unarmed British civilians marching in their own community. The killing fields are now a tourist site. Women have long played a crucial role in the city. They were the breadwinners, working in the factories, while their husbands and sons signed on the dole. History can be a romantic place for young men, but proud, decent Derry women have long grieved at the deaths of fathers, husbands, brothers and sons. There is a mood of optimism in the city, now that the guns are silent. And in both traditions, there are sincere people of goodwill, anxious to put the past behind them. Seamus Heaney wrote, "History says, don't hope on this side of the grave, but then, once in a lifetime, the longed-for tidal wave of justice can rise up, and hope and history rhyme."